So it looks like we're getting pretty close to the end of this Marvel Legends Giant Man HasLab project. But is this one going to fund, guys, and is it going to meet its stretch goals? Be sure you stick around till the end, guys, because we're going to talk about what might have made a better HasLab project than Giant Man. Well, it looks like we're getting pretty close to the end of this Giant Man HasLab project, guys. It doesn't feel like it's been all that long, but it actually has been, and it's going to end on the 24th of October. It is currently just short of 6,000 backers, and I have no doubt that this is going to fund. I think it will fund. What usually happens with HasLab projects is about the last week before the project ends, lots of people come in and start backing the project for various reasons. They just got paid, or else they're starting to experience the fear of missing out, and then they decide to go ahead and back it. Do I necessarily think the tiers are going to be unlocked? I don't know about that, because it doesn't seem like there's all that much excitement surrounding the tiers. The people that I talk to seem to regard the tiers as superfluous, unnecessary, and not really all that desirable. Now, I know that I said I kind of like this HasLab project, and to be fair, I do think that it's pretty decent. But the vibe that I'm picking up from people is that they don't think that this one is all that great of a deal because it's coming short of what they would have liked to have seen from a Giant Man project. Some of the suggestions I've heard are pretty valid too, I think. One of the things that I thought was interesting was someone suggesting that they should have had multiple Giant Mans within the project to indicate that he's gaining size. So you would have had a really small Giant Man, and then like a medium-sized Giant Man, and then a really large-sized Giant Man. And that would have made for probably the most comprehensive Giant Man project you could have, I think. And to my way of thinking, that's probably the best way to represent Giant Man's powers outside of giving him interchangeable parts. And even that, I don't know how that necessarily might work, because at face value, that seems like it would require an unnecessary amount of engineering on a Marvel Legends action figure. As it stands, though, we don't have Giant Mans of different sizes that represent his powers. We just have the lone action figure along with some faceplates and one extra head. And to be fair, that extra head, as well as one of the faceplates, isn't going to be available at all unless all the tiers are unlocked, which, by the way, there's two. There's one that offers a zombie faceplate with all the decoration that goes along with that. And then there's one that offers a Secret Invasion Skrull head that replaces the Giant Man head that this one comes with. And even though the Marvel Legends team said that they were not going to include action figures baked into the tiers of the project, paywalled behind those tiers, I think a really obvious choice to include with this project would have been Ant-Man and the Wasp, because obviously they're so strongly associated with Giant Man, because Ant-Man is Giant Man, right? That you practically have to include them in some form or another, or else the project feels like it's a little light on the comprehensive Hank Pym experience. And by the way, that always seems to be the ongoing theme with these HasLabs, is that they never really offer you a comprehensive character experience for whatever you're deciding to back. That was the case with the Engine of Vengeance, because it didn't include any appropriate characters for Robbie Reyes' iteration of the character, and it didn't even really include Ghost Rider characters necessarily, because it had Mephisto, but then it included the Black Queen. So what kind of HasLab Ghost Rider project was that to bring in Ghost Rider's anniversary, right? Even the Galactus project, as much as people like that one, came with an unnecessary paperweight in the form of a Dr. Doom head that had no bearing on any Galactus stories at all and wasn't featured in any Galactus stories at all at any point. It was just this random disembodied Dr. Doom head that they apparently threw in. I think this is the biggest weak point of the HasLab project, is that they are really unfocused on what they want to do. They do a broad generic sampling of stuff that might not even necessarily be appropriate to the character, and then you know what they say, by trying to please everybody by just including a bunch of stuff, you wind up pleasing nobody. And that's kind of where we run into this same issue with the Giant Man HasLab in the Secret Invasion Skrull head that they're including with him, because although it is a pretty nicely made head and it looks decent, don't really know where they're pulling it from, because if you go and look up Secret Invasion Giant Man, you don't really find any representations like the one that we're seeing here. You find something that looks quite different instead. So it would seem that they took the mask they had and tooled it so that you could put ears on it and then put a Skrull faceplate inside of it. If you support what I do, please click subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss a single video of mine when it comes out. And if you're enjoying this Marvel Legends Giant Man HasLab video, please give it a like, guys, because these take a while to put together and I really appreciate it. Obviously, if you're a fan of Giant Man, you are left scratching your head and wondering, is this really worth the $200 price tag? Bear in mind that the base level project should be worth the price of admission alone. Giant Man and whatever he comes with at the base level should be worth $199.99. Granted, it's a good looking action figure and it's really well made, but it's a tough sell to put this out as a crowdfunding project when you know that a 24-inch action figure could conceivably make it to store shelves quite easily, considering that it's a Marvel product. And if this did make it to store shelves, it would not be out of line to say that this would be somewhere in the ballpark of $125 to $150. And I find that a little bit easier to swallow than $200. I think that unless the toy is something that is really desirable or something people really want, that everyone is very burnt out on the crowdfunding project concept at this point from large companies like Hasbro. When you sit and think about it, the prospect of paying Hasbro up front to do their job is a little insane instead of going to a retail store where you have a great deal more buyer protection at the toy aisle. When you buy a toy at retail, you can very easily just take it back to the store if it's defective, and that's one thing I do consider when I look at the way that the faceplates work on this Giant Man action figure. They still haven't demonstrated the durability of the mask, and even though this is a good looking toy, I don't want to buy a $200 toy just to find out that there's not going to be any longevity to switching out the faceplates a whole bunch. And mind you, you can return a HasLab, but it costs you a bunch in shipping, as opposed to just taking something back to the store if it doesn't have the quality to it and getting your money back. I think a lot of people are realizing they don't want to put themselves through that headache anymore, and besides which, with all the crowdfunding projects that have been coming at us from various companies, it's hard to justify getting more crowdfunding projects because a lot of toy collectors, and there's a limited number of them by the way, are probably running out of space with all these large toys coming out, so they need to be a little bit more discerning about what they buy. So that might mean that they focus more on G.I. Joe or Transformers or something, or Masters of the Universe and Marvel Legends. Well, that gets left by the wayside. All this, I think, is contributing to the current level of excitement and the situation surrounding the Giant Man HasLab right now. And while I think it isn't dire or anything like that, the numbers from a poll I've just taken do seem to show that a lot of people are really not feeling this one. Probably more than Hasbro should feel comfortable with at this point. Not that a YouTube poll's the most accurate measurement in the entire world, but with approximately 1,500 people responding on it, I mean, that's not a small number. That's quite a few people who really don't care about this HasLab project, or just don't want it for various reasons. Well, Soulmates, now that we've talked about this Giant Man HasLab, what would have made a better HasLab than Giant Man here? I think the most obvious answer here would be Fin Fang Foom, because that's a really big character, and if they wanted to make a huge HasLab character-based project, he seems the easiest choice to do. Everyone gets excited about that character. People would like to have a new one after all these years. I think that he's kind of a slam dunk. Well, Soulmates, what do you think of this Marvel Legends Giant Man project? Is this one that you want to back? Are you going to back it, or are you not going to back it for whatever reason? Or are you having a hard time deciding? I don't know, guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and be sure you let me know what you think would have made for a better HasLab project. If you'd like to learn even more about the Marvel Legends Giant Man HasLab project, you can watch that video here, Soulmates.